Now, guys, we are a couple minutes after the hour here, so we're going to begin our session here, and excited to have a couple guests from the business here, and we're going to dive into how Merck KGaA Darmstadt, Germany has really started to evolve its talent strategy globally. And so in this vein, we have two special guests here with us today. I am Tom Lowe, Vice President of Global Client Delivery for Randstad Sourceright. And joining us from Merck KGaA and representing the Americas business for that organization, which operates here locally as EMD Serono, MilliporeSigma, and EMD Performance Materials, is Jennifer Isvek. Jennifer has been with Merck for a number of years now, almost 10 at this point, and in the last couple of years in her capacity as the RPO leader for the Americas, where she is responsible for execution of the RPO partnership and nearly 2,000 hires annually. And then prior to that, she held a variety of different procurement positions within Merck, and most recently as an associate director, where she was responsible for HR, consulting, temp labor categories within the business. So we are happy and excited to have Jennifer to represent the full spectrum of talent, having seen both the contingent, the consulting, and the direct hire side now. So welcome to you, Jennifer. And I believe that you and Chris are both on mute, so I'll give you that flag to take yourselves off.
Thanks.
Hey, Tom.
And then additionally, welcome to Chris Hutt. And Chris is recently celebrating his 15-year anniversary with Randstad and is a VP of the Randstad Enterprise Group. And in Chris's tenure with Randstad, he has had responsibility in leadership positions for a number of different deliveries, RPO, BPO, MSP. In the past few years has been explicitly focused on the relationship with Merck KGaA, based in the UK. And with that, Chris, I'll transition over to you so you can talk a bit more about your customer and frame up our discussion for today a bit more.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Tom. So yeah, as you just mentioned, I've had the pleasure of working with Merck actually since 2015, and 2 years ago developed that into a sole responsibility role, which has continued as we've now developed our enterprise group, which is really focusing on how we target acceleration and growth with our large enterprise clients. For those of you who aren't aware, Merck KGaA Darmstadt, Germany is a leading science and technology company. They have three specialist areas focusing on healthcare, life science, and performance materials. For those of you who don't know as well, Merck is actually one of the oldest life science and scientific organizations. With 350 years ago, it was created in a chemist shop in Darmstadt, which is a huge heritage. But what's really exciting is the fact that the company has evolved and developed over that 350 years to now become one of a truly global organization, not just in location, but also in behavior and culture. Over recent years, Merck has completed a number of acquisitions and mergers, which has put real pressure on any organization not to lose focus. But the goal of innovation and making a difference to millions of lives has always pulled the organization together, merging the brands and becoming part of the Merck world. They've taken this challenge on well, and we've seen huge investments in innovation and research and development, and of course, big changes in their employer brand value as well. As it stands today, there are over 56,000 employees working for Merck KGaA Darmstadt, Germany, across 66 countries. And as Tom has already alluded to through the introduction of Jennifer, Merck is the international brand, except for in the US and Canada, where they operate as EMD Serono in the biopharmaceutical business, MilliporeSigma in the life science business, and EMD Performance Materials in the high-tech materials business. So a company of great heritage, but also a company at the forefront of innovation as it develops in the future. So as far as today's webinar, one of the primary focuses here is to share with you the data and findings from our recent talent trends research. And as you can see here, the research is conducted across a number of different categories, both professional workers, which ideally is your target talent for talent acquisition, C-suite, HR professionals and human capital leaders across 17 different countries. This is a research that's conducted every year by Randstad. This year, though, there is a big change, a big difference, because we actually evolved it and started to also engage with working professionals as part of the survey. So this year's report contains not just insights from the industry, from our 800 C-suite human capital leaders, but actually also an additional 1,700 working professionals to really give us some reflection of what they're seeing within the global market of talent acquisition and human capital management. As you can see here as well, from a country split, we have all of the major evolving markets, particularly where we see a number of international and regional organizations headquartered. And we also cover a large amount of industries as well, so automotive and manufacturing, obviously a critical market, as is banking and financial services, consumer goods, of course, life science and healthcare, and IT and technology. So throughout the coming few slides, as Tom and I and Jennifer talk to you, we'll be obviously making sure that we share with you some of the insights from this research and how it's really giving us a good reflection of what we're seeing within the industry and how we, of course, are evolving that relationship with Merck and how things are evolving. One of the big underpinning factors, though, with all of this evolution and innovation is the impact of digital disruption. As we all know, in the roles that we have, digital disruption is seen in many different ways. But I think one of the most interesting researches that I was introduced to was actually how the impact that it's had on particularly US corporations and the S&P 500 index. What's really interesting is if you look in 1958, within the companies that were in the S&P 500 at that particular time, the average tenure of those companies within that group was 61 years. As we fast forward now to 1980, we then saw a decline sharply in that as we started to see evolution and globalization starting to take some steps forward, and the average tenure reduced to 25 years. And then most recently in 2015, the average tenure was seen as less than 18 years. So at this level of churn and at this level of behavior and evolution within our organizations, and the actual research shows that potentially the 3/4 of today's S&P 500 will be replaced by 2027, which is a huge disruption. Quite commonly, people see digital disruption as being something only attributed to the phones that we have in our hands and the apps that we see on the app stores. But in reality, digital disruption covers so much more than that. And I think this measurement is a clear indication that far before we were looking at apps on iPhone stores and things like this, we were seeing behaviors and digital behaviors impacting on the way things are. It's obviously not the only impacting contributor. We obviously see through cultural behaviors and financial situations also impacting change, but digital disruption is clearly one of the primary catalysts as well. And what's, as I said, very interesting is it doesn't just hit and impact us in the way that we behave, in the way that we shop and things like this. It also impacts the way that companies behave. And it really does change the skills and capabilities of the people that we look to engage in roles when they come to work. And it's really evolving that. And what we can also see is the fact that it doesn't really have any limitation when it comes to industries. And no industry is really immune from it. If we look at where some of the first industries that were really impacted, it was the information-rich companies like, for example, publishing and music, where we now have a paper subscription methodology rather than going to a shop and buying a CD or buying it. This is a total flux of that industry and complete change in behavior. And then this is also being seen in lots of different other industries. And I suppose that's the challenge to all of us with when it comes to human capital and talent innovation, as it were, is how do we keep ahead of it? What is the opportunity for us here? And the good news is there is definitely opportunity. I mean, if we look at the companies as we are with Merck, people or companies that embrace change, who make investments strategically with the right senior management support and the right technology acquisitions, you can really make the best of this situation and really develop and empower the role of talent acquisition when it comes to the future strategy of the organizations. Successful companies can harness that, and I think that's why we're seeing with Merck is that they themselves have embraced change. They are as we always talk within the Merck team, they're always curious for the next innovation project. And I think that's something that we're seeing here in the behaviors and the behavior of the solutions. So moving on, so here we are with the first data and findings from our 2019 Talent Trends report. So what we can see here, as you see clearly on the slide, is that 76% of people who haven't yet adopted a total talent approach plan to do so in the next 12 months. Now, in reality, total talent management, as we know, is a term that's regularly used, but every organization is finding its own way of adopting that. And I think within Merck, we're seeing a definite step forward in achieving this goal. From the analysis we see from organizations overall, what's underlying and underpinning the need to embrace total talent management is partly due to digital disruption, as we've already mentioned, but it's around giving them more agility to be able to react more readily and rapidly to the evolving market conditions, to be able to embrace a more global approach, and location-based silos are removed by adopting more total talent management. So there's lots of evolution that we can see coming, and companies are clearly looking for this evolution to happen and allow them to become more of a facilitator, or less of a facilitator of corporate strategy, but more of a leader and contributor to the corporate strategy. Ultimately, with the data that we have available and the access that we've got to really understanding the talent landscape, bringing those messages into the executive boards and the C-suite to really show them this is what you need to do with your talent strategy is a critical part, and that's absolutely something that we're working with Merck to achieve. So that's a high-level overview of the first, but I'll hand over to you, Tom, to take us on to the next element, and obviously bring Jen into this questionnaire.
Great, thank you, Chris. I appreciate the frame up, and so interesting to have that juxtaposition of one of the oldest companies out there and how it is really embracing innovation and speed. So I'm excited to drill down into this further with both of you. And we know that this didn't happen overnight. So Jennifer and Chris, I'm looking forward to talking about how some of this journey started with Merck and locally here in the US with MilliporeSigma and Serono and Performance Materials. So Jennifer, I'd like to start with you. One of the trends that we've been discussing is a significant shift in the strategic importance of HR and talent acquisition in particular, having a seat at the table and starting to drive real value for organizations where even just a few years ago, this was a far more tactical function. And we're starting to see evolution of recruiters to being recruiting business partners and consultative and all of these different components. So my first question to you, Jennifer, as one of the companies driving massive growth and innovation globally, what are the talent challenges that MilliporeSigma, that Serono, that Performance Materials are facing right now? And what are the major initiatives that are driving change when it comes to your talent strategy?
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So for Merck KGaA, we see talent challenges in several markets due to low unemployment and growth of companies establishing locations where we already have offices. We sometimes struggle to find candidates in highly specialized areas. For us, we see a lot of shortages in quality and scientific positions. We're finding that our entry-level hourly positions, the pay rates in the marketplaces are changing rapidly due to growth of business demands and just competition. It's harder than ever to keep up with these changes and find talent. The company's growth is driving us to adjust our daily tasks. As a global organization, we grow through M&A activity and planned business unit expansions. The past few years, we've seen significant increases in our headcount. Our talent strategy is a combination of how we manage our internal practices and how we go to market. We've tried to focus on driving accountability and execution internally, and we also aim to put the right infrastructure in place by utilizing the right people. And for us, that involves utilizing an RPO and a MSP to supplement our internal staffing team. Additionally, we're making sure we have the technology and process innovations to accelerate our time to hires.
Great. Chris, anything that you would add from a global perspective for Merck?
Yeah, I mean, I've already covered a couple of points off, which is, as you say, Jen, there's a real globalization, and the technology and process innovations are clearly something that we've been focusing on over the last couple of years to ensure that the user experience, whether you're hiring in any location, is always feeling the same. The candidate experience is also very important. So therefore, if you're applying for a role, you should also feel like you're being treated the same in any location. So this has been a kind of reputational part of the focus that we've been having. But in reality, as we now move forward and we have our foundations built with common technologies and common processes, it's really about how do you take it on to the next level. And I think Merck's really showing the innovation on, for example, with the location mix. So we're seeing new locations being opened, new focuses, particularly within the shared service centre, global delivery centre locations that have been selected. There's been huge investments in China as well around manufacturing and production. And all of this is around how to build business for the future, putting the production and sales in the right locations strategically to be able to grow in the emerging markets. So there's been a big focus from Merck, and I think we've seen and supported that as much as we can do, and of course equally made investments to make sure that we're in place to be able to deliver the services that we need to.
Great. Thanks, Chris. So probably not a surprise to anyone, but we are seeing an increasing and ubiquitous discussion around talent scarcity. And Jennifer, you alluded to some of this in some of the specific market conditions and competition influencing your company's TA strategy. Can you give us a few more details on what unique challenges that you see in the Americas, and how are you facing talent scarcity as a result of those challenges?
Sure. I'm not sure any of the challenges we have are maybe unique from what anyone else on this call may be facing. I recently read a report from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics that there are currently more job openings in the U.S. economy than there are people looking for work. That is just an amazing thing to think about. Additionally, we see workers, especially in the manufacturing area, that are set to retire. We're getting an aging workforce over the next few years. We know these retiring workers are going to be taking their specialized skills and institutional knowledge with them. It's really a concern for us. It makes us focus on workforce planning and building talent pools with the skill sets we need. Another challenge in the U.S. is that we struggle with employee branding since we're unable to use our parent company's name of Merck, KGaA, Merck Group. Our U.S. entity names are less known to the public, which is something we have to overcome with our employer branding campaigns and our grassroots efforts to attract talent. Another area that can be a challenge for us is our hiring manager population. Often we don't get the lead times we need to be successful. We simply can't meet unrealistic timeframes for the recruiting process. We have a defined recruiting process that takes time, and we can lose candidates and disappoint hiring managers if we aren't agile enough. Our RPO recruiting team has become more consultative and communicates with our hiring managers on the process, the marketplace, and what talent is available. We encourage our managers to be open-minded and act quickly. We occasionally struggle with a hiring manager saying, I like this candidate, they tick all the boxes, but I'd really like to see a few more candidates to compare this to. And we end up losing candidates when that happens due to the search for the perfect candidate. This is a critical need to educate our hiring managers and act when they find a great candidate. There is no perfect. So other challenges are that we need to accept that the skill set we need isn't always present locally. We need to consider relocating candidates, remote workers, referral bonuses, sign-on bonuses where appropriate, and internships to develop the skills and the talent that we may need now and in the future. We need to focus on hiring for soft skills, looking for flexible people who are a good cultural fit. A candidate may not have all the experiences that you want, but if they have a curious mind and want to make a difference, an enthusiasm, a willingness to learn, those are the people we should consider and train.
Great. And it's interesting you mentioned the role of the hiring manager, and I know that I'm starting to see a shift of that in the U.S. and certainly at your company, Jennifer, is more openness and awareness as to what's going on in the marketplace and the need to be expedient, the need to focus on candidate experience and to be quick and to be precise with what we're trying to do. So important that your company is doing so much evangelism within that hiring manager population to make sure that they're considering those factors. I think it's really leading to better success. Chris, from a global perspective, what are you seeing from a scarcity perspective? Because I know that this isn't a consistent challenge in every region, but it seems to be one that is present in many. So how is Merck addressing that elsewhere outside of the Americas?
Well, I think Jen's probably mentioned quite a large number of items, to be honest, because in reality, as I mentioned before, the organisation of Merck is a global organisation. Everyone's focusing in the same direction. The brand utilisation through our RPO service is consistent and global. We are seeing more in the market necessarily than we are in Merck, developing within the MSP space is utilising employer brand within MSP. Obviously, this is not legally always permissible, but it does mean that certainly in the countries where you are able to do that, it helps talent pool more effectively. Because ultimately, as you mentioned, Jen, if a candidate is looking to work for Merck has got the right behaviours, it doesn't or shouldn't matter necessarily what type of work they do. And in reality, by us talent pooling candidates in the right way, we are able to really evolve the reputation of Merck in all markets, but also then harness the right talent. We have got some good, and I know we're obviously going to talk about technology at some point, so we'll come on to that, but we have got a good talent pool approach and technology in place, but this is still part of our evolution at the moment, is how to take this really forward and develop it further. We also know that the location of work, as I mentioned about Merck's diversity on locations, is also something that can be embraced as you move forward with a more integrated or talent pool focus, because actually it doesn't necessarily matter where the work is always performed. As we see with gig workers, particularly in certain industries, this is very prevalent, but we're seeing gig working more and more impacting into more corporate environments, and this again could well be an evolution step. So it's not necessarily addressing the talent scarcity challenge that we have today, but it's planning for the future talent scarcity challenges that we'll have in the future, and making sure that we're being proactive in the way that we're approaching it, not just simply reactive.
Great. And well teed up to the next trend that we're seeing. And Jennifer, I know you and I have discussed over the past few years the evolution of the marketplace for U.S. workers. But as Chris is mentioning, this is a global trend as we're seeing far more openness to contingent gig work, sort of alternative work engagements, consulting. And with that hiring manager community seeing, hey, we need the work to get done, we are starting to see a real shift in the willingness to not say, this is how the role was filled previously as a direct hire, therefore I need another. We're seeing an openness to engaging the talent anywhere in the world in any type of employment engagement. So how has your talent strategy evolved as a result of these evolutions in the market?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. We're certainly seeing this shift with our hiring managers as well. And we know that if a position has been full-time in the past, that it might not be that way in the future. Because of this, we've worked with both our MSP and our RPO partners to establish greater connectivity. And we're seeing some success with that shared talent pooling and joint hiring efforts. Beyond this, we just need to be far more proactive and holistic with our recruitment strategy and any potential candidate on the market. We know we can't rely on the job posting alone. We're really focusing on grassroots approaches. We build up our employer branding via local sponsorships of community events. We've utilized billboards, radio, print ads. We're regularly, almost on a quarterly loop, holding and attending career fairs. We're visiting colleges and holding STEM events at schools. We have our sourcing team focused on building talent pools for in-demand and high-volume roles. And we're focusing on data. We see where we've attracted candidates from the past. Is it a particular company, university, or is it a career fair? If so, let's pursue those avenues again. We also use predictive analytics and market insights to help educate our hiring managers on the talent supply and the demand. We're able to provide real-time data on talent as a way to better understand if we need to shift our go-to-market approach. We can also use tools proactively to build out our strategy for site expansions, which we've had several in the past few years. Our global approach has been an evolution. Really, we're focusing more on total talent management as a way to overcome the challenges we have around talent scarcity. This approach allows us with the business to determine the resources most appropriate for the needs, regardless of worker classification. We've really had the business come around and be willing to start looking at the work that needs to be done rather than the type of employment engagement. We've gotten smarter about leveraging profiles, as I mentioned, whether they're temp or consultants or FTE. This approach really allows us to be more agile in an evolving industry. We've had to focus more on how we best go to market. We know candidates have options, and we need to make sure that we represent how we differ in the marketplace and provide them with great professional opportunities. We've started to standardize our messaging on how we represent our company and how we define our employee value proposition. There's so many positives about our company, and our talent advisors need to make sure that they share those highlights with candidates. I'd say lastly, we've tightened up procedures and made best processes the new standard. So we've established global KPIs. We publish our quarterly results to the business. I really think by being transparent and doing things the same way, our recruiters have become more efficient and our business partners know what to expect from us.
Great. And Chris, you've touched on a few of these different areas relative to the total talent strategy and willingness to look at a global talent pool, but is there anything else that you would pepper in here in terms of the openness to how we engage with the workforce or that global strategy?
As you say, we've covered a number of things already. I mean, in reality, as you've mentioned, Jen, there's been so many different things that's been done over the particularly last 6 years. There's been the right foundations put in place, as we mentioned already, through technology development. And I think what was really a defining moment was actually where we, as two companies, as it were, Merck and Randstad, really set ourselves the goal of what we wanted to achieve when it came to a total talent strategy. We set our kind of flag in the ground and said, right, by this point, we want to achieve this model. And we're still working towards that. So by no means are we saying that we've achieved that goal and we have our best case here of integration models globally, but we are definitely on the right road. We've got the right evolution built. We've got the right processes being built. So ultimately, we're on the right track to be able to achieve the goal. So I think, Jen, you've mentioned all the different things, though, as you said, that we're doing, and it covers quite a lot.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And this, we're going to start discussing a bit more about technology, and this was the initial question that we had on the poll, and very similar results from our audience here to what we've seen overall in the market. But Jennifer, we've heard a bit from you about how your company's strategy has evolved significantly to outpace the market, and that a lot of that is being driven by or underpinned by technology solutions and data insights. So let's dive a little deeper there. How are you using technology to accelerate your talent strategy and gain a competitive advantage?
Yeah, so technology has really been a key to establishing a competitive advantage. To be successful, we need to embrace technology and process automation. I think on the temp labor side, we've recently launched a global instance of Fieldglass, which has simplified the process of procuring temporary workers while giving us robust reporting capabilities. With the Great People CRM, we've built campaigns globally for talent pools, and it gives us the ability to drive the candidate experience. We've been engaging our candidates via text, video, social media. We encourage our recruiters and our hiring managers to be active on social media and leverage their networks to publicize roles and share links to campaigns developed. The continuous engagement, it really helps to keep candidates interested in coming to work for us.
And what about analytics, Jennifer? How are you using analytics and market data?
Yeah, our RPO provider has access to several data points on local markets, so they share that data on resources available locally or nationally, typical years' experiences, education, pay, top competitors, and we then in turn share this with our hiring managers, and that's helped us better engage them. For example, should we be hiring a resource in St. Louis or Darmstadt? Where is the skill set we need most prevalent? What company should we target passive candidates from? In what geography is the skill set most cost effective to obtain? This market data can really help drive these decisions. It also helps set the expectation on where we need to be and where to focus our search. Some of the other areas or technologies we've used, we use Modern Hire, which formerly was Montage, for video screening capabilities. So this tool makes it easier for candidates to respond to questions when it's convenient for them. This flexibility really eliminates the issue of trying to find a time that works for the recruiter, the hiring manager, and the candidate to all connect live. We've recently begun using what we call the Job Analyzer. It's an online tool that helps us maintain gender neutrality when communicating with applicants about our jobs. The tool indicates a score to measure the gender biasness of words in the job description. And so we can make sure that we're not targeting any one gender and we keep our job descriptions neutral. And I would say lastly, we have our ATS data linking to Talent Radar. And this is a tool that Randstad brought to us. And it's a real-time, we can get real-time insights. So we can be more proactive in our approach and obtain better workable reporting than is available on our ATS alone. We shift really from data being after the fact reporting and truly integrated day to day. Immediately I can see if we're having successes or challenges in any area. And this was really a game changer for us, this tool, as we previously had data provided monthly in arrears. I'd say as a company, we are always looking forward when it comes to technology and exploring what is available to make us more effective at recruiting talent.
Great. Chris, what would you add on technology or analytics?
So I think, as Jen's mentioned, I think certainly Merck is very much embracing technology. What's really interesting as a global organisation is how the construct of the technology stack or technology linkings globally is very complex and very different. So what we don't see, apart from the core technologies as we've just been mentioning, there is still a need to have local nuance or local technologies because of the complexity of the global market. I think many of us will be aware of the challenges that we have operating in China, for example. There is sometimes technology challenges there to ensure that you have the right data warehousing. Similarly, in emerging markets in LATAM, we also see a number of technologies that just have not evolved enough to be able to have a full footprint in these locations. So this does mean that here and now, the technology landscape is more complicated than it will be in the future, that's for sure. As we step forward and we see more investments into successful technology companies, we will see that this more local approach will be removed, no doubt, as we start to get more consistency in the technologies. But as it currently stands, it is still very complicated to build what is needed to be able to deliver a fully integrated talent solution. This is something I know that as Randstad, we're focused on investing in technologies to support the growth and challenge this complexity, and how do we really overcome it. So this is still very much something that we're working on. But the good news is, even though it is complicated, we are able to still build things and make things happen for our customers and clients. We also see local adoption is also part of our challenge as well. So culture and how does the candidate market integrate with technology is also very important. So again, it's not just around capability of the tools, it's also around the adoption of the tools. So again, it means that although you can have a global approach to technology, you still need a very local focus to ensure it works. Because ultimately, if it doesn't work, then you need to find another solution to ensure that you're achieving top-level goals. As far as the data part of it, I mean, as you mentioned, the Talent Radar system has been critical for us over the last few years, not just for Merck, but for other customers as well. We are able to harness all of the data and really give any client stakeholders or our teams even access to this information. And this really drives what we call our Talent Advisor Toolkit, which is where our team are meeting with hiring managers in role briefings, as you mentioned, Jen, and really sharing valuable information about historical hiring. Why did we hire this person before? What was the historical time to offer? Or how did we approach the market last time? What was successful? We are also seeing developments in predictive as well. So utilizing the historical data sets that we have with Merck, we're able to actually also build predictions. So this is where, again, we see a game change in the operating model, because if we're able to really bring to the business what we believe as a talent acquisition strategy would be for the future, this is already changing the way that we're approaching the business and the strategic goals of the business, because we're able to support them with what happened and what do we think will happen in the future with this approach. This is still in very much an infancy element, but I think the combination between what you mentioned, Jen, about our sites in the local market, historical hiring performance from Merck, plus the predictionability, this really is the elevation element. As I said, this is the game changer. So I think harnessing that data and pulling it all together is really what we're looking at as our next step, and I know certainly we're on track to deliver this in the very near future. So it's all very exciting at the moment.
Great. Thank you, Chris. It's interesting as we're discussing HR and TA wanting that seat at the table and the consultation evolution, and this enabled by greater technology and data visibility, and perhaps because of that, it's critical that we have to be able to show success and have measurable results on the business. So Jennifer, for you, what does that success look like in the organization? How are you quantifying and measuring it? And how do you evangelize your wins with the hiring manager community or the business?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Personally, I take a qualitative and quantitative approach to recruiting success. So obviously, like any other program, we focus on KPIs, time to offer, time to hire, percentage of age roles, how many roles were accepted. We also send out surveys to measure hiring manager satisfaction along with candidate satisfaction. We really need to sustain our successes and strive to continually improve in all of these areas, despite how tight the market may be. And really, these metrics help us gauge where we are. Relationship management activities are key to our success. We keep communicating by having quarterly reviews, PowerPoint briefings on achievements, sharing data, and keeping track of the team's kudos from the business. Honestly, the business doesn't know what we're doing to support them unless we tell them. As you know, so much goes on behind the scenes, and that they just don't see it, so they don't know. I'd say one less than ideal recruiting experience will create a great deal of noise and negative perception of recruiting. Our business, they focus on the negative, or they hear the negative, and that's the perception. I would encourage folks to combat this with facts and data on the overall recruiting program. Don't let incorrect perceptions really define your program. Be proactive in setting the narrative on what recruiting is and what they do for your organization.
Great. And Chris, I know that this has been a major focus of your role and your governance that you've set up to support the organization. So perhaps you can add a little more color also and focusing on results and success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the big, and again, similar to the previous conversations that we were having about technology, is is capturing hiring manager success at a global level is very different by market and by geography. I think you need to ensure that you have the right tool in place to capture it. So I think back again, we're talking technology again, but you need to have the right technology in place so you can get reactive, proactive commentary from your hiring community on the look and feel of the service. So across Merck, we've got a number of different tools in place. And the lights have gone on. So a number of different tools in place, which allows us to capture at a real first-hand communication level of satisfaction, and then also at a reaction post-hire, how did you feel this experience went? And I think a combination of those two different metrics really then gives you a full rounded picture. As I said, the technology then also needs to be capturing local language requirements. I think what we see is really interesting is the level of response rates can be really low in certain markets. So we now have, as part of our Global Excellence team, a review happening on how do we improve our response rates from the business in certain key locations. And we ran a really good pilot project in combination with Merck, of course, in China, where we saw a traditionally very low response rate from the hiring community, but actually by adopting a different tool with a different methodology, we saw over 90% return rate in the quarter. So for us, this was a really clear signal that it's not that the business don't necessarily want to tell us how they feel, it's actually more the case that they didn't embrace how they were being asked, and that's down to culture. So I think this is where, again, you need to understand how to get that feedback, how to utilize the tools that we have available, and understand that although global approaches are clearly needed to be able to give top-line management and top-line strategy, actually local focus is still required to be able to deliver this.
Great. Thanks, Chris. And Jennifer, thank you for sharing your insights with us today and the evolution that your company has undertaken. For some folks who are just looking at starting this and they see the speed of the market and they see talent scarcity and they see how it's changing out there, but don't know where to start, what tips do you have for folks to start their own journeys?
Right. I'd urge folks to not try and drive changes alone. Ask your staffing partners and talent acquisition peers from other companies for their best practices for the problem that you're looking to address. Really inquire into what they're seeing in the marketplace and leverage their expertise. Another thing is to find advocates in the business and get their buy-in for the changes you're looking to make. See if you can combine their business goals with your goals from a talent acquisition perspective to find a joint win-win that can be tackled together. Another tip would be to try and put a savings value, either a monetary or time savings, to the change you're looking to make. I know those savings really speak volumes here at Merck, especially if the change you're looking to make requires a budget. Having a clearly defined return on investment will really help the cause. And I'd say be sure to remind your hiring managers that recruiting is not just a talent acquisition topic. Our managers need to play a role in the process, and it's important that they're engaged. Building stronger relationships with your internal clients, your hiring managers, will really help fuel those opportunities for positive changes.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest shift that we've seen, Jennifer here locally, is that willingness, and we spoke about the evolution of the business and their awareness of the market. So I can't underscore that one enough, is the criticality of engaging the totality of the business in talent acquisition. Chris, what else would you add?
To be honest, Jen, in your role, you have far more experience managing procurement, buy-in, etc. What we've seen from a provider point of view is one of the key steps that we've been able to deploy here with Merck was the global approach to our operational management. So we've been able to install KPIs, as Jen, you mentioned already, which a real table stake approach, but actually it's simple and it works. It means that all of the business in all of the different countries and locations, whether it's on our RPO service or our MSP service, have the same KPIs, and that rolls into our teams, and it rolls into the way that we report. And it means that when we do go and talk to managers, there's a real consistency about what we're talking about. So therefore, it then becomes really clear when you're in a live environment when we may need focus and attention to support the evolution of the approach. So, for example, if we might see pockets of locations where we see underperformance in the KPIs, that's not necessarily down to the provider or the talent acquisition not working. It's also back to, as you say, Jen, making sure that the managers are playing their role. So utilising KPIs for engagement processes and really supporting the improvements needed to get there. For us, that's been the really big change over the last couple of years to really help the evolution of the model. But other than that, I think, Jen, you've answered it absolutely what I would say as well.
Perfect. Thank you to both of you, and appreciate both of your time today. And we do have a couple questions that have come in, and we'll serve these up to whomever wants to answer just based on the level of detail. So we have one, we sometimes find it really hard to find the talent pool for some of the roles in Germany. The tool that we rely on is LinkedIn. Understand LinkedIn is not widely used by candidates in Germany, and the other tool that we know is Xing. How do you determine which channels are best for reaching certain audiences globally? And Jennifer, Chris, I'll sort of throw that in the air, and whoever wants the ball can grab it.
I can start and then turn it over to Chris. So that's really a great question. And for us, it's been a bit of a trial and error approach. In Germany, I believe our top two sites are LinkedIn and Stepstone. We have tags in our ATS system that allows us to track where folks are coming from before they arrive at our website. So that really gives us the ability to use this to report on the clicks on our jobs from the different job boards. So thus it shows us really which boards are more effective at driving candidates our way. I would say we're now exploring digital candidate advertising to better target candidates, along with purchasing keyword searches that will direct candidates to our career site. I know Chris sits in Europe, so I'm curious to hear what his insights are here.
Yeah, and I think you've mentioned definitely two of the major ones already. And I think that's the joy of working through a company like Randstad, because we already have quite a huge buying power when it comes to things like job boards. We're able to really work with the job boards or work with our own internal experts to understand what are the right job boards. So to be honest, I think you've listed two of them already, and also within the question we heard the third one thing. So we're definitely capturing it. But I think what you were saying also, Jen, is the innovation element for us. I mean, utilising job boards is really, if the talent pooling approach is working and you're really driving integration and total talent management, your job board spend should be reducing. Focusing on driving candidates from those talent pools will be needed initially, but if you can manage and curate them and look after them well and give them engaging content, then actually the need to continue to visit those job boards and spend those euros or those dollars is far less. And this is clearly part of the development of the true talent pooling approach that we work at the moment. And part of that is also then looking towards the digital approach that you've also mentioned, Jen. So we've been focusing on how to better invest our job board euros and dollars, because actually we're seeing that programmatic advertising is far more engaging now and far more able to engage passive candidates in a better way than reactive candidates. So therefore, they're more likely to join talent communities if they want to hear more about it. So this is definitely a 2020 or 2019/2020 focus for us to bring this into the major markets that we have in the next few months.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Jennifer. And Jen, maybe this is one for you because it's got a procurement bent to it, so you can answer from both sides here. But how are you in your role now working with procurement once you have market insights and can determine which kinds of resources are best for the work that needs to be completed?
Yeah, no, that's a great question too. I would say our interactions between procurement and HR are limited. They're not where I think they should be. I would say we recognize this is an opportunity for better total talent management. I'm currently on the HR side, and what I do is I'll invite my procurement colleagues into workforce planning and business review meetings so we can align on position needs and strategies to find resources. We also come together jointly to identify talent and support career fairs throughout the year. In my region, we have the same MSP and RPO provider, which I think makes it easier to get our vendor partner to share resumes and recruiting resources whenever possible. This year, we've seen more resumes being swapped between the two areas, and this has resulted in numerous hires for us. It's been successful. So I would say the more we collaborate, the more successful we've become, but certainly it's definitely still an opportunity. I think we can do this better. Chris, what are you seeing as the trend here?
I think if I was to look back through a number of these talent trends reports, I think there's always been an underlying message, which is that HR and procurement need to come together more closely. And I think we are seeing that now. So I think there's a real step forward. I think having aligned on our strategy 2 years ago, it's been an evolution change, and I can see that this is definitely coming. But I think there's also, as you mentioned, a real opportunity for Randstad as a provider of RPO and MSP services to also make this happen. So as you've already alluded to, Jen, the integration of our teams, moving away from the siloed approach that we have within our own business of Randstad is really helping us drive forward this agenda. And this is something that we're working with Merck in a number of markets. We already have 3 major countries in scope that we're moving towards this operating model where the teams are collaborating, they have the same technology base to be able to then talent pool effectively, they have the same API approaches. And I think for us as a provider, this is a kind of almost an evolution for us in our recruitment industry as well. So we can't just look to HR and procurement to do it for us. We also need to evolve, and that's what we have been doing, which is great to see that we're starting to see success already, but really looking forward to the next 12, 18 months as we continue to evolve and continue to see more successes coming, and of course, no doubt, some more lessons to be learned as we go through that time period.
And related to this, we got another question, and I think we've teased out the answer. So I hope the answer to this is yes, Jennifer, based on what you were talking about in terms of resume sharing and having the ability to make more placements in the organization. But do you recommend having the same provider for MSP and RPO?
I do. I absolutely do. I think there's certain synergies that can be gained by having the same provider for both temp labor and your full-time hires. I think they get to know your company. It's having additional recruiters, whether they be on the temp side or the full-time hiring side. For us, it's just worked out well having the same provider in my region for both. I just think when there's ebbs and flows in one area, you can manage that with the team on the other side. Again, we've had resume sharing when we know we've had a tough role. Rather than going out to an agency, we can utilize the recruiters on the other side who go to their networks, and it's been really helpful. I don't see a downside to it.
Great. Thank you. Well, and with that, I've gotten to the end of the questions. Chris, I think I know your answer to that one, so I won't even ask it. But I appreciate both of your time. Jennifer, thank you for the insights, and Chris for the global perspective on how you've supported, and Jennifer for sharing so much about your company and the journey that you've been on. And we will share this out with the audience as it's been recorded, and certainly appreciate your time and have a wonderful rest of your days.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye.